All right, here we go. We're rolling into it. Cole, thanks for waving to our enormous crowd. All right.
Just saying good morning.
Thanks for waving to my mom, Cole.
Yeah.
Hey, Liz.
Is our biggest fan. Today we have some misconceptions in recovery. Cole dug this up out of the internet and brought it to our attention. And I figured we'd go over some of these.
Dug it up. Okay. A lot of serious research here. Yes.
Big shovel.
Hey,
Number one. Are you ready for this? Number one was you
So
have to hit rock bottom first before you can find recovery. Nothing.
And we're saying, and we're saying, like, is that a misconception or not?
Yes.
I think that's a misconception. I'll go ahead and jump in. I think that's a misconception. And the reason being that, like, people have different rock bottoms, and there's a lot of misconceptions on what that is. And, you know, people think of like a person living under the bridge and it's homeless. And, you know, I know a lot of people who have gotten sober and that was not their situation. You know, they're the saying, like, you hit your bottom when you put the shovel down, and that speaks to the willingness that has to come into play when you get sober, or at least being willing to try to be sober.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there may be a way you can look back at it and be like, yeah, that was my rock bottom. You can look back in hindsight and say that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a dangerous misconception that often would get thrown around when somebody's trying to justify like why they need to go back and use again. I do see that with clients as well. I did never hit rock bottom. Like, well, what you're really saying, you want to go back and use.
Mm-hmm. You're not tired enough yet.
I'm not done.
Yeah.
I think that there's I think when you look at like the emotional rock bottom, I think it's much more consistent and relatable amongst people, and kind of dispels this notion largely of like that there's like everyone has a different bottom. I think when people say everyone has a different bottom, it's, oh, mine was a DUI, and mine was losing my job, and mine was my wife leaving me, and mine was just having that last hangover. And I think those are the things that like serve to separate us and really kind of like propel this misconception forward, rather than like I was so like sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was so alone. I was hard to look at myself in the mirror anymore. I felt so depressed. I felt so anxious. You know, people were not wanting to be around me. Like all those things, I feel like when you bring them up, they'll hit a whole room of alcoholic addicts, and everyone will relate to it. It's only when you get into these like weird specific things that are more of like the physical world and consequences and things like that that you lose people, and it pushes that myth forward. That's my opinion.
Because don't they talk about that? Like, you know, listen for the similarities. When you're listening to somebody give their story, you know, I know we talk to our clients about that in group, like listen for the similarities. Maybe this person did this drug and you did this one, or you drank. Maybe like they didn't get kicked out of their house or their marriage and you did, whatever. Like, you can hear the differences all day, but if you listen for the similarity, that usually is on this emotional, there's an emotional like connectedness that can happen, like you just said, Lucas.
And it's like all subjective too, right? And I'll always bring up this story anytime this comes up, of like the 22-year-old I had that was talking about how the 20-year-old in the sober living house didn't get it because he was just a baby. And you're just looking at both of them of like, y'all are basically the same age, and you like have basically the same life, and you're in the same position. It's not like one of you finished college and one of you didn't, or like anything that would be like a big difference. So you're just clamoring at whatever difference you can find, which is that like, I'm 22. He's only 20. He doesn't get what it's like to be 22, you know? And it's like, like if you have that kind of attitude, you'll find nothing but differences. And if you have the opposite attitude, you'll find nothing but similarities. And it all comes down to what you're looking for. You'll find.
Yep.
Yeah.
Run it. Next one.
I didn't get to say anything. I'm just kidding. I was just going to quote a interventionist that I follow, Sam Davis. Shout out to him. But he made a post the other day that was really good. He said there are two people that get sober. A person who just gets so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and often, or what I see with that person, is they're typically older. That happens in the 40s, the 50s, the 60-year-olds, the older crew. But that person gets sober that is just so tired, and they feel like they've exhausted everything. And the other person is the one who runs out of options. And I feel like that person is normally more influenced by their family, their parents. Like the younger adult can run out of options. You have the luxury as a parent to like take those options away. Hey, I'm not funding this. I'm not paying for your car. I'm not paying for your apartment. I'm not helping you with food. If you're going to choose this lifestyle, you need to figure it out on your own. They run out of options, they get uncomfortable, and that's when they make a choice to change their life. So I thought that was really cool, and a testament to like, you don't have to hit rock bottom. Sometimes you can be forced to get uncomfortable and make a change.
I was talking about that in a meeting the other night because it's like it's all like artificial a lot of the times. And like as a like in addiction, there was like these invisible puppet strings attached to like other people that were actually like holding me up, and that if they weren't, then I would have stayed in jail, and maybe I would have gotten sober then, or I would have lost my apartment and I would have stayed, maybe I would have gotten sober then. There were like all these instances, and it's like revisionist history now to go back and say, you know, what if? But I feel like just to be honest about it, that like my addiction wasn't working. People were just like making it work for me, whether they were willing or unwilling in that. So there were all these like invisible strings that were holding me up that I think are easy to not see or ignore or not acknowledge, but that's what like keeps it going.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, number 2. Sobriety equals boring.
Fully agree.
I was thinking the same.
Not as exciting, not as fun.
Not as fun. Terrible. Nobody should do it.
No, I think it's just different. You give up the high highs for the low lows, and you cruise somewhere more in the middle that's just a lot more stable. And I think you can still have a ton of fun in sobriety. I do all the time, but it's just like again, it comes down to like, what is fun? The same as like, what is your bottom? What is fun? And if fun is only like shooting heroin and getting drunk, then like, yeah, that fun is over. And if that's the only way you have fun in your life, then I guess sobriety will be boring. But if you can like open your mind and again, like change what you're looking for other ways to have fun and enjoyment, you'll find those 100% if that's the attitude. But if it's the opposite and fun is only getting messed up and changing your frame of mind with substances, then yeah, you'll never have fun again.
Do you guys think that, I mean, being both in recovery, do you think that you still get the same intensity of emotions in sobriety in terms of like excitement or joy, or, and maybe it's not the same type of rush of adrenaline that you would get like going to a drug deal or getting really like high or whatever, but do you still get like the same type of like intensity of emotions?
No, I don't. But I would say like, no, I don't get the same sense of euphoria, the same sense of those high highs. You're right. Going to do a big drug deal, or like, bro, that's intense. That is, it's intense looking, but you also don't get the intense fears of like looking over your shoulder, like, you know, is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation after me, or the DEA after me, or even my crash outs were way worse. Don't get me wrong, I can still crash out today, but when a crash out on drugs, I was like, I could be violent. I was like punching holes in walls. I was taking a golf club to a glass door. Like, and so no, not the same intensity as when I'm on drugs. That just, it made, like Lucas said, the highs a little higher, but the lows were so much lower that it was crazy. And it was good to even that out a little bit.
Yeah.
And the highs
you
were,
think, Lucas?
were artificial, you
Yeah.
know, like not real, and they're not based on like real life events. It wasn't because I got an awesome job or I just got a promotion or I just met a new, you know, woman in my life that I'm like really interested in seeing, or that I like accomplished something. I got a new like record on something. Like it was none of that. It was just like I bought drugs and I got high on them. So I mean, it's like it's the cheapest high, you know, like there's nothing substantial to like carry me out on that, or carry me forward. And like the crazy thing is, like again, it's just like what you look for. That like You want to know my high was today so far? I ordered a and it kind of fits in with like drugs because it's like a little bit of that dopamine kick and you just get it in different ways. But I ordered a authentic Sony Wega Trinitron remote for my CRT TV that I bought for my son to have like a VHS setup. And it came from eBay this morning and I got to open it up and I was searching it out on eBay and then I like found the one that I wanted and it matched up and I ordered it and I waited and I saw the, it left the shipping facility. It's coming. Okay. It was delivered. And like, it's like a lot of that same like drug stuff, and that like sounds silly, I feel like, but I mean, to me today, no more silly than doing all that for heroin, and at least, I don't know, that remote isn't going to like drastically alter my life, but it like finishes this setup that I've been working on, which is like, okay, I completed something. It wasn't all about me. It was getting it set up for my son. So there was like some purpose there and like a bigger goal than just me feeling good right now in this moment that again will like benefit me a week from now and people other than me a week from now, 2 weeks from now, years from now is like my goal that my daughter can watch that TV and future children after these two can watch this TV and like have that experience. So I know no one who's 21 listening to that who's currently on drugs will think that sounds appealing.
Yeah.
Dude, if someone is 21 and on drugs and has made it this far into this podcast,
They're
what
not
are you
watching
doing here? We're really glad you're here, but what are you doing here? Did not think you were leaving. Like, how did you get here?
I'm just saying, if you're a mom and you saw this, don't show this to your son.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll definitely lose him at that point if you hadn't already lost him.
Well,
Let me, can I ask a question? So if you're going off this, so like in active addiction and you're going off this like euphoria and then like crash out, like feeling terrible and fear, like euphoria, crash out. And that's kind of what life looks like this, like kind of like wave graph. And then in sobriety, is it maybe just a different graph? Like we're looking at maybe more of a bar graph where it's like all these different emotions. There's euphoria, there's fear, but then there's also like joy, there's also like connection, there's also ambition, there's also resilience, there's also like, all these other emotion that's becoming more like it's more of like a sum of its parts. So maybe no one emotion hits this like crazy euphoric feeling or this insane like fear. But when you put together all these like different emotions that you're experiencing, maybe it's like worth it. I don't know. I mean, you guys have been.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I would think that being an active addiction, the peaks and valleys, if you're thinking of it as like a stock chart, peaks and valleys are way bigger, but it's a gradual decline. Like no one is going to sustain that long term. Like you're going to crash out, you're going to burn out at some point, whether that happens when you're 80 years old or 20 years old, I don't know, but I can promise you it's going to be a gradual decline. And then in active recovery, I'd say the peaks and valleys aren't as high and low. It's not going to look as chaotic, but you're going to be on a gradual incline. So it's like the quality of your life is steadily getting better.
What do you think of that, Lucas?
I think it makes sense. I think just the up and down adds like another layer to it. Like, yeah, the highs are higher, the lows are lower. But if you're focusing more on like the highs being higher, it's also just exhausting over time to move that far constantly in your life, like this high up and then this low down and then this high up and this low down. Like that in itself is an exhausting thing that I think wears on you in your life. And I have a graph that I could, not a graph, but I have a picture that I could draw to explain this, but I don't have to do it in this instance.
I'm drawing a picture right now. Is this kind of what you're saying, David? It's like highs, lows, highs, lows, highs, lows, and it's just like a steady downward slope.
It'd be different than that, though.
What you got? Are you going to start drawing?
What goes up must come down.
Oh my God. Is the time for the song? Is the time for the singing part of the episode? Let's do it.
Blippy, here for your interview. Or no, what'd
It'd
you
be
call
like
me?
this. It'd be like this, Cole.
Oh, interesting.
The low is actually going lower every time, and the high you had the high
Yeah.
going lower, but the lows would be going lower
The
too,
lows are going lower too.
and those are like bigger consequences, more severe.
You know what I think life looks like as you're like trying to get better? I think it looks like, and it's on my computer too, but I drew a bigger one. I think it looks like this right here. Do y'all know what word that says?
Yeah.
God, now we're demonetized, Cole. Jeez,
Yeah. Can't say that out
Oh, my
loud.
bad. I didn't say it.
bro,
I didn't
we have
say it. But I
we are
think,
we are not monetized, so it does not matter.
okay. I think we're, it's like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. I'm getting sober. This is terrible. People are, people are like proud of me. Oh, wait, I have to actually like do stuff. Maybe this is around like you're doing like 12 steps, step 4 right here. Like, oh, wait, I have to actually do stuff. And then it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. Wait, maybe it's okay. I can do it. But look where you've been. You're up here and you were down there. Look at
Mhm.
that.
It's just a lot of up and down, but all gradually moving up.
That's what my life feels like. I feel like this is what my life feels like.
It's
We'll
just
say
life.
that.
I think it's just life in general, and the point is that like just because you get sober doesn't mean life stops happening. It's just you're better
Mhm.
able to deal with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So that was a great segue into the next one, which is once an addict, always an addict.
Oh, complicated, nuanced, difficult.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Man, you can turn a cucumber into a pickle, but can you turn a pickle into a cucumber? Sorry, a bit spirited.
No, I think that's something people say. I think I would love to be able to say just completely that yes, that's absolutely true. But I feel like I have seen like weird exceptions to it where someone does manage to go back to drinking and never back to drugs and somewhat hold it down and manage it. It's just like there's like no like metrics for this, right? Like what is success if you go back to drinking? How happy are you? How can you measure that? Okay, yeah, you're still holding down your job. You got into a relationship. Things are like largely going well, but I mean, for the guys that I've seen that have done that have gone through our sober living, all I'm seeing is social media, which is like them putting their best foot forward. Not to say that's not true, but it's just like that's not the best picture of what's actually going on in a person's life. I mean, we know that with social media, no matter whose it is.
Mhm.
So it's just like it's a hard question to answer, and I wouldn't pretend to have the answer. But I know for most people that we work with, fully being abstinent sober makes sense looking at like what their life is right now, all these consequences, all these problems. It's probably going to make sense to get sober for now and do that. I always tell guys like do that for 5 years, a lot of times until like you're 25, your brain's fully developed. Give sobriety like a really good chance. Look at your life and assess it of like, okay, this is what I've gotten in sobriety, this is what I got when I was in addiction, and is it worth it? If there's even a 1% chance that I could lose all this stuff and go back to how it was, is it worth it? And if you think it is, then go make that choice and just know that you can, always come back, I guess, if you have the opportunity to and nothing too bad happens. But I don't know. I know a lot of people that are just like, yes, absolutely. Once an addict, always an addict. I just think that there sometimes are weird exceptions if people are being honest about it.
Well, I think
I'm that person.
that 5 year thing is interesting. Go ahead, David. What'd you say?
I was going to say I'm that person. I think if you're once an addict, always an addict. I think it manifests itself in different ways, pops up, and people ask me, first question would be, what was your drug of choice? And it's like opiates. I loved opiates. I loved pain pills. Okay, so like, do you think you'll ever be able to drink again? No, I don't. Well, why not? It's like because I see how my addiction plays out on smaller scales. I see the way that it happens with just sugar, like refined sugar. If I try to do well without refined sugar for a while, and then the night I have a donut or allow myself a cupcake, guess what I want the next day after lunch? Like, that donut was good. Maybe I have another one after lunch today. And then dinner that night. Well, I already messed up at lunch, so I'll have 2 for dinner tonight. I mean, it's just like a snowball effect. It's that addictive personality that I know would snap back into place with alcohol or really anything that makes pops off endorphins, dopamine at the end of the day.
What's interesting, like when you look at, there's obviously like different like research on this, but like in just me doing a quick Google search, the relapse rates, if you only have a year of sobriety, is around 75%. It's still like really high, and so many times you're really just give them that first year, and it's still like 75% of those people are going to relapse if they even get to a year. But when you get to 5 years, the relapse rate drops to 7%.
Mm-hmm.
So that 5 year mark is like a really important one. And it kind of proves to what you're talking about, Lucas, is that if someone builds their life in a way in which they are getting fun and joy and like excitement, euphoria, and all these ways without substances, they really don't want to put it at risk. Like, why do I want to risk it? I really like what I have built for myself. But that takes time, and that takes time for the brain to heal, and takes time to build a life that you really are excited about. So you're looking at 5 years probably. So I think it's just like an important like misconception of just because you get a year sober, is that what your life is necessarily going to look like? No, like it's still pretty early. You also didn't use drugs or alcohol for a year to become like an alcoholic or addict. It didn't happen. It didn't happen in a year. It took a while. So.
Well, I just hit the point where I equaled out. I had 10 years that I was doing drugs and alcohol. I now have 10 years sober. And I feel like that's probably a good barometer to like look at, of like, give yourself as much time as you were doing drugs and alcohol, messing up your life, whatever. Give yourself that much time sober, doing the right stuff, trying to, make your life better, and then compare those two. And compare like right at the end of the addiction too, not the beginning. Of like, what was the end of that 10 years? What did that look like? How down and out were you? How did you feel? What was going on in life? And then look at the end of this 10 years of sobriety. What do you have? What's going on? I feel like for most people, that's kind of like a no-brainer comparison at that point, where they're like, all right, I'm obviously going to keep going with this, because I don't think it's worth a 0.01% chance. Even if it was that low, that like I go back to what I have and I had and lose everything that I have right now, I don't think that it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, to answer the misconception, like it's complicated. It's complicated, and it's really down to the individual what they believe. But I would suggest everybody putting enough time into sobriety to have a clear understanding of that. And even a year, while that's awesome, that still may not be enough time to get a good idea of what sobriety really is.
Dude, I was still a totally insane person at a year. I mean, debatably, like still am, but like, I just feel like in a year you're like barely figuring stuff out, and like, and if you're like a younger guy, especially like kind of doing a lot of growing up at the same time, but still have a lot more growing up to do. Like, I just feel like a year is not the number, dude. That is not the number that you say, all right, this is what I'm comparing to my addiction. And it still sucks. And I've decided it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that we're all still insane people, though.
Sure. I mean, way more at that point in time.
Yeah, for sure.
I just depend.
Take addiction out of it. Take recovery out of it. And I think I told both of you, I went on this like mountain trip for a pre-wedding with my wife, and it was her group of friends that we were seeing. And some of these people were Olympic athletes or training to be in the Olympics. They were addicts. They were addicts that never found drugs, but they were the way that I treated drugs and treat some things today, like they were that with running and the things that whatever they were trying to compete in the Olympics.
But you can
broaden people. It showed up very differently.
You can broaden the definition of addict so big that it basically just encompasses humanity, and that like everyone's addicted to something. But I would say for the guy who's addicted to running, his life probably looked a lot different than mine being addicted to heroin. Yeah. And mine necessitated a lot of different changes that his probably doesn't need at all, and he'll find something after running, and hopefully it's just as healthy as that is. For the most part, I mean, everything's going to have pros and cons, but I just think that's the only way that you can like kind of conclusively end that argument of like once an addict, always an addict is basically like everyone's an addict. So everyone's always an addict. And it's like, what are we even talking about at that point in time?
Yeah. All right, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
But this I was going to skip this one, but we'll throw it out there. You have to do 12 steps or it doesn't count.
It doesn't count is hilarious.
Doesn't count, dude. You gotta do those 12 steps.
You're not really sober unless you do the 12 steps. You actually are verifiably sober, but it doesn't count. I mean, that just sounds like such a crazy person saying that.
Yeah, let's skip that one. That's not a good one.
I mean, there's stuff that you could say about
Well,
that.
you could pull that part like, is 12 steps the only way to do it?
Yeah.
You know,
That's basically what it is. Like, it doesn't count if it's not, which is just crazy.
well, I know a lot of
And that's
people
me as a
who
12-step person saying that.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in 12-step. That's what worked for me. It's what I promote to other people. I still think it's insane to say that if someone does it without that it doesn't count or whatever, you know, like that's just crazy.
yeah. I've seen both sides of it. I know people who are a long time sober who are not 12 steppers. And maybe they did at one point or another, but I also see people who have a long time sobriety and very much get something out of their 12 steps. So
I think everyone could benefit from the 12 steps, but I would say that's everyone, like not just addict alcoholic people. I think that what the 12 steps talks about is like pretty universal in improving life. So
I would agree with that. Let's move on to the next one. And this one could be quite controversial, but it says, if you relapse, you're back to zero.
Ooh, man, this is like another one, like define zero.
Yeah.
I'm
a believer that
0 days sober. What do you say? What do you think?
I'm a believer that it is. Like, I think that, like, yeah, if you have a loss, you should accept it. You know, that's like saying, we know you lost, but you still get a ring. Here's your trophy for the T-ball season, bro. Like, no, dude, you lost. You got zero. Zero rings, zero trophies. Try again.
Ooh, so the therapist and me, I think it depends. I want to define like what zero is. Do I personally believe you're at 0 days sober if you relapse? Yeah, like that's just like factual evidence. You're not sober. You just relapse. You're at day 0, so your count starts over. But I don't think it means that you're back to where you were before you ever got sober. I think there's stuff you can build off of. So like 0, yeah.
Like, I'm not saying, no, you didn't retain any information from your time in recovery and it was completely worthless. But I am saying that, like, you need to look at what you were doing that didn't work and try to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Lucas?
Lucas loves these misconceptions.
they're so extreme and they're so dramatic, and there's even like just more nuanced ways you could even say the misconception, but they're just purposely like so extreme, like polarizing. It's really funny. Back at 0, I take 0 as loser, nobody, never gonna make it. Give up. Yeah, I don't know what 0 means. But I would say that what y'all said, I mean, you're obviously back to 0 days sober. What do days matter? Does time matter? I remember I was in a meeting because I've always had this feeling of like, man, it's not like the time that matters, it's the quality. Because I've seen people with 3 years sober who are miserable because they're dry drunks and they're not happy, and they're, you know, just that time alone is not doing anything for them. I think we've all run into those people. But I remember there was a guy giving out chips at a 12-step meeting one time, and he was like, and we give out these chips to mark your time because time does matter. And it kind of like hit me in that moment that I was like, you know, like time does matter, because like, even if I'm like, if time doesn't matter, then if I can do the 12 steps in one day, I should theoretically be like as good as the person who's done the 12 steps in 1 year, but has a year sober. We both done the steps, but I have a day and they have a year. And there's like just no way, you know? So like, I just think both matter. and the stuff that you learn along the way and what you're actually doing matter a lot. I think the time matters a lot too, especially when then you look at like neurobiology and like your brain healing and stuff like that you're coming out of, like that takes time away from substances. So if you just relapse, yeah, you have reintroduced substances into your brain and probably jack some of that up a bit. Now, does that mean like don't try and you might as well just give up and it's all gone for nothing? No, focus on the good stuff that you were doing that was working. Also focus on what maybe needed to change. Work on both at the same time as you move back into recovery, and like just give it your best shot again. Like it's absolutely worth trying. People relapse, it happens, but like don't cope on the relapse, you know, to use the Gen Z knowledge or the Gen Z terminology. Like don't like try to explain it away. Oh, it really wasn't a big deal because I had done this and I had done that, and it's just one slip up. Like just be accountable with it and like honest, and like this is what happened. It's not good, but I'm also not going to beat myself and like flog myself on the back for it either. You know, I'm going to look at the good, look at the bad, move on. That's it.
Yeah. All right. We got to at least do 2 more of these.
Good God,
Yep.
Cole.
All right. So the next one is addiction is just a lack of willpower.
Dude, it's like every mean thing that someone could come up with to say about addicts. It's just like, who came up with this list, dude? Just the meanest people on earth. The mean council of 2025 sat down and hammered out this and their hate circle.
Honestly, as we're going through these, you know, I'm getting insight into like, I don't know, I feel like I'm getting a glimpse of like our own self-talk of how we talk to ourselves. And I'm not saying that mine is the healthiest, but I have taken a stance of like this all or nothing, like with myself. Does that make sense?
That
Like
if you
very black and white thinking of like, trying to think of a good example. It's okay to say. Yeah, like if you relapse, you're back at
Always about
zero.
blacks and whites with you, dude.
Yeah, like if you relapse, you're back at zero. I have that thing like I try to tell myself that I'm weak, that like I am just a weak individual. If I allowed myself to go down that path, I'm like, I can't have some unhealthy conversation with myself around those topics.
Mhm.
Like even when the thought pops in my head, which it does to this day, 13 years into recovery, I have thoughts every once in a while that pop in my head of like, oh, what if you did that? It's like David comes in of like, bro, you're so weak to even, you would let that control your thinking like that. Like, why would you do that? You're such a bitch.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the question about the willpower, like it's definitely, I mean,
It was about willpower.
I know. I went on a tangent.
but I mean, I guess like with the willpower thing, I mean, people in active addiction have like some of the strongest wills, you know, it's just not channeled in like very healthy directions, you know, like, and so I think the difference in like addiction and recovery is just where the willpower is being directed towards. But I think they both take a tremendous amount of like willpower,
Yeah.
and there's not a lack of it in either case, in my opinion.
Now,
I think one is doing it. I think one is doing it just to like prove that you have it, and the other one is doing it in like an actual like towards like a positive direction. Because like, why do I need to prove that I have willpower, that I can have one drink and not have any more than that? And that's like to satisfy normally other people in my life that make that point, not in a long time. But I remember when I was working construction, something came up about it, and I was like, yeah, I just like can't have one drink. And they were like, oh no, you can. You just like need to have the willpower to like just have one and like basically like quit being weak. And it was just like, what? So I can like get your approval so I can satisfy you that I can have one. And that was like a big turning point for me where I was like, I'm not even talking to people like that again about that issue. You know, like it's just not even worth it. I'm not going to change their mind. They're not going to understand where I'm coming from. I'm not going to have a drink to like satisfy their point that I just need to practice willpower. So it's just like all for this like kind of BS notion that I'm just like proving to people that don't matter to me that I have it, versus I exert willpower every day for the past 10 years to not do drugs and alcohol and destroy my life. And that has taken varying degrees of willpower, but a lot in the beginning, to like not do that. And so to Cole's point, like I think addicts, alcoholics have incredible willpower, just pointed in a positive direction rather than a failing direction. Like who would like, I'm gonna prove that I have the willpower to hold a building up and then just like fail and be crushed under the building. Like for what, dude? Why? For who? To impress who?
Mm.
Yeah, you may not
Yeah,
find
I think-
more willpower than an addict waking up in the morning broke who needs to get their fix for the day.
That's true. And it's also it's helping people redefine when they get sober, like, because they talk about like turning over your will,
Mhm.
like, but I guess like what I hear there is to allow someone to help you, like to open yourself up to be helped by others, higher power, whatever. Like that takes willpower. There takes strength in being vulnerable and allowing yourself to be helped, you know? So I don't know. I guess I want to be just clear, like the difference in like having willpower versus like surrendering one's will.
Because it's understanding what's not a willpower issue. Like back to like the holding a building up, like that's something that can be done. Crazy construction feats are done, but they're not done by like my power alone. They're done with like machinery and teams of people and years and decades and centuries of knowledge and like people not reinventing the wheel. So it's like bigger than me. And I think that's where the serenity prayer comes in. That's like why that's probably like in my opinion, the best prayer or like sentiment ever to ever come out with. It's like focus on the things that I can change and have the courage to change them, and then accept the things that I can't change or that I maybe need extra help on, or that's it's not going to be my willpower alone.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Hot topic. You're either sober or you're not. So this is exploring like the gray area in drinking in moderation or harm reduction. And I actually saw a post this morning of a guy saying like, hey man, if opiates were your thing and now you're just taking kratom and drinking, like do your thing. You're in recovery.
Oh,
So thoughts on that? Yeah, that one hurts.
that's how I feel about that. Oh,
Same. That's a shots fired.
God dang. It's just, it goes back to Cole's point that he said earlier of like, if you relapse, do you factually have 0 days sober? I mean, that's how simple it seems to me of like, you're either sober or you're not. And like, I think we all generally know what that means. And I'll hear the cope on it of like, well, you do sugar and caffeine and those are drugs. And it's like, we all know that that's different. We know that that's different than kava and kratom and drinking in moderation and whatever. And if you drink in here's the catch though. If you're doing that and it works for you, great. Like that's awesome, dude. Keep doing it. You'll get no hate from me. Just don't call yourself sober, because like if you're under a tent, the tent can only be so big without enough support under it before it collapses on itself. So like the California sober thing, it's kind of like just go be in your own tent where you're California sober, and that means you smoke weed and that works for you. That's awesome. But call it a different thing and go, because that's not what we're doing over here. That's like this abstinence approach. It doesn't mean that your solution doesn't work. It's just a different solution. But don't fold it into our solution and act like it's the same thing, because it's not.
Yeah.
It's a Merriam Webster defines sober as an adjective, which is interesting because then you hear some people describe it almost like it's a verb, but as an adjective, and they say that it is not intoxicated or abstaining from drinking alcohol or taking intoxicating drugs, refraining from the use of addictive substances. Or, in the last definition is sparing in the use of food and drink. So, yeah, I don't know. Pretty clear there. It's like alcohol and intoxicating drugs is what it's being abstinent from. Is what sober is defined by, or defined as.
It's just, it can be both. It can be a positive thing that you don't do heroin anymore and now you just do kava and kratom. That's awesome. If that's really working for you and your life is a lot better, all the power to you. Keep doing it. And I think people want it to be this black and white thing that, like, you're saying that my life's messed up and then I'm never going to go anywhere and whatever. And it's like, I would never say that. If it's working for you, keep doing it. If people in your life are happy with it, like just your life is like tangibly better than it was. Why would, I've got no problem with that. Do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Agree. Cool.
Well, thanks for the top 10 most divisive things anyone could ever say about recovery, period, in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
Were they that divisive though? I feel like they were all. I was hoping that like one would actually cause us to have a debate on here, but I feel like we were all pretty much in agreement on all of this.
I mean, that was the top.
Because we are partners in a business that has a very specific approach to how we think recovery is best done.
Yeah, I could promise you a lot of people would argue with our logic.
Yeah, for sure.
Comments.
We need to get debates on here though. We need to come up with some stuff that we can debate on air.
Some of the ones we didn't cover was you'll lose all your friends. The next one was only people with a visible problem need help. The other one was you can't be young and in recovery. One was therapy ? That's for people who are broken.
We're all broken, dude.
That's how the light gets in.
That's always what I think of when I hear that. That was David's line on his video.
Yeah. Oh, that performed well.
All right, let's wrap it up today. We
can do this next time.
Yeah.
Those are really great.
And we're out.